Human beings take roughly 20,000 breaths a day. It is a constant, involuntary rhythm that happens largely without a single conscious thought about the actual physical mechanics involved. But when that rhythm breaks, the clinical stakes are immediate. A patient arrives at a clinic suffering from dyspnea, a severe shortness of breath. The medical team has to figure out exactly why the system is failing, and they have to do it fast. To solve this kind of diagnostic mystery, we have to clear up a major biological misconception. In everyday language, we use the words breathing and respiration interchangeably. Biologically speaking, they are two entirely separate processes. For doctors trying to save a suffocating patient, this distinction dictates the course of treatment. They have to determine if the physical air delivery hardware is broken, or if the microscopic chemical engine driving the patient's cells has failed. The primary muscle of breathing is the diaphragm, a dome-shaped structure directly beneath the lungs. When inhaling, it contracts and flattens, enlarging the chest cavity and pulling oxygen into the lungs. When it relaxes, it returns to its dome shape, forcing carbon dioxide out. This mechanical pumping is purely an extracellular process. It happens outside of the cells, simply moving gases between the outside environment and the interior of the body. This physical motion generates zero biological energy on its own. Breathing is simply the cargo delivery mechanism. It transports the vital ingredients into the body, but the actual life-sustaining work of keeping organs functioning hasn't even started yet. Once inhaled, oxygen diffuses out of the lungs and into the bloodstream. Red blood cells act as a high-speed transport highway, carrying that oxygen to billions of individual cells. This is where cellular respiration begins. Unlike breathing, respiration is an intracellular chemical process. Inside the cells, that delivered oxygen is used to break down glucose and actually generate power. The chemical formula for this process shows glucose combining with oxygen. Through a series of enzymatic reactions, the cell converts them into carbon dioxide, water, and ATP. ATP is the functional energy currency that allows muscles to move and organs to operate. Here is the connection between the macro and the micro. If a failure in the mechanical breathing system starves the body of oxygen, the cellular chemical engine instantly halts. Without ATP production, the organs shut down. To trace the exact location of a mechanical failure in our patient experiencing dyspnea, doctors rely on pulmonary function tests, or PFTs. PFTs use a technique called spirometry to measure airflow, literally how much air is moving and how fast. They also use static tests to measure lung volumes, tracking the absolute holding capacity of the patient's respiratory hardware. This chart breaks down those exact lung volumes. By measuring specific biological compartments like vital capacity and total lung capacity, doctors can pinpoint where the physical hardware is falling short. PFTs take invisible biological distress and translate it into precise mathematical data. This clear data allows medical teams to categorize the specific type of failure and intervene before the cellular engine stalls. This flowchart illustrates how doctors interpret PFT data to sort respiratory failure into two distinct patterns. The critical dividing line is the FEV1/FVC ratio, comparing air forced out in 1 second versus total exhaled volume. If that ratio drops below a normal limit, the patient has an obstructive pattern. They can pull air into their lungs, but damaged or narrowed airways, like you see in asthma or COPD, prevent them from pushing it back out fast enough. If the ratio remains normal, but the total lung capacity is reduced, it points to a restrictive pattern. In conditions like obesity or kyphoscoliosis, the chest cavity is physically constrained. The patient simply cannot get enough air inside to begin with. By identifying whether the mathematical pattern is obstructive or restrictive, doctors isolate the exact mechanical problem. They know immediately if the patient's air tubes are blocked or if their chest cavity is restricted from expanding. Every single breath requires a flawless handoff between macroscopic muscle mechanics and microscopic cellular chemistry. It is a fragile chain, but modern medicine provides the exact mathematical data needed to track, measure, and repair it down to the deciliter.